and welcome to Color Your Home Happy. I'm Justine, founder and creative mind behind Rainbow Shaker, a colorful interior design studio in London. My goal is to spread joy and happiness through the design of cheerful interiors. If, like me, you think that we need a colorful bubble to escape the daily gloom, then this podcast is definitely for you. Each episode, I will be welcoming well-known guests from various colorful backgrounds. You won't find us speaking about the right way to use colors. In this podcast, I want to help you trust your intuition and give you all the confidence you need when designing interiors full of dopamine. Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Color Your Home Happy. I'm Justine, your host and colorful interior designer at Rainbow Shaker. From New York raised cookbook author to British colorful artist, I have the pleasure today of receiving Sue Kreitzman. Hi Sue, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you for coming here, and in fact you're kind of my neighbor.
It took me 5 minutes in an Uber, and we're both really colorful characters. Yeah, very colorful characters. We have a lot in common.
So can you tell us a bit more about your journey? Because you had a lot of different lives like myself.
Yes, because you really have had different lives, and so have I. So I started as a school teacher. Well, no, I started as an oboe player, and that's what got me through university, because university is very expensive in the States. And it's like being an athlete. You get a basketball scholarship, you get a football scholarship. I got an oboe scholarship, and I was very, very serious about it. And then I became a school teacher, and I taught in the inner city in various big cities in America. I lived in Boston, Massachusetts, Cambridge, which was a very academic, full of intelligentsia. I taught in a school in the inner city there, and it was a very working class population. The kids were so well behaved. I was used to teaching in the inner city in New York. I got to Cambridge, Massachusetts, right outside of Boston. And the children were very well dressed and very well behaved. And I thought, something's wrong with these kids. They must be tranquilized. They're so well behaved. They're extremely well brought up. And then I got to Atlanta. I got there the year, it must have been 67 or 68. The year they decided it was time to integrate the schools, finally. So in their wisdom, they decided instead of integrating children first, they'd integrate the teachers, the faculty. So I was put into a school. I was the first white teacher in this school in a Black neighborhood. That was one of the best experiences of my life. They were all so good to me, and I learned so much that it would take me all day to tell you stories about that. It was very eventful. It was extremely eventful. And then I became pregnant with my one and only child. And I thought maternity leave and then go back to teaching, because teaching was my vocation. But I always had a great love of food. And I fell into the food business. And I became a cookbook author, a cooking teacher, a food journalist. That was a big, big career. And I ended up writing 27 cookbooks. When I arrived 40 years ago, I arrived in the UK, and I cooked on the BBC for a long time. And then I cooked on GMTV, and I cooked all over the place, and I traveled teaching cooking. And that continued until I was 58 years old. So that would have been from 62 to 58. I was a foodie person. And then at 58, I had some kind of really strange epiphany. I don't know if the muse bit me in the bum or I had a psychotic break, or most likely it was the menopause. But I started drawing, and I knew I could never make art. I always loved color. I always loved art. I collected what I could afford to collect. My house was always incredibly colorful, but I had flunked every art class I ever took from primary school on. And I could not do what they wanted me to do. So I knew that I was bad at art. And then suddenly, one day when I was correcting the proofs of my 27th cookbook, I had all these scraps of paper, I had colorful markers, and my hand picked up a marker and drew a mermaid on a piece of scrap paper. She had a fish for a hat, and she was festooned with snakes, and I started taking other markers and coloring her in. She was incredible. Where did that come from? At that moment, the mermaid took over. I was not in charge. Never wrote another cookbook, became completely obsessed with drawing and then painting and then sculpting, and ever since then, I was 58. I am now 84, 83 and a half, somewhere between my mid-80s and eternity. I've been an artist. Touch wood has gone really, really well for me. I have things in museums, and I've had many shows all across the world, and I just know I've been really, really lucky, and I can't imagine ever doing anything else for whatever life I have left.
Does art keeps you active?
Well, it keeps my mind going, certainly, yeah. It certainly does. And it's my art, and I do mentor a number of young artists, and I have a lot of their work around me as well as my work in my home and in my various sheds. It's absolutely life-affirming. And then I don't sell my work, really, but I do trade with other artists. But as far as color is concerned, we are very similar with our love for color. I was born with a rainbow in my head. I have no idea where it came from because my parents were not particularly colorful. But I've always had this deep lust and need for color all around me. And as soon as I was grown up, I was 1962, I would have been 22, had got my own apartment in New York City, painted the walls bright colors. We had no money. My husband and I, it was our first flat, and we had things that we put up on the wall, all very, very colorful, and the walls were very colorful. First time I was living in a habitat, I understood and exactly what I wanted. So I very proudly invited my mother, see what I did. She looked around and she said, "You'll outgrow it." I'm 84 years old, and it only got more so and more so and more so. So there, Mom, take that.
Is your husband also very colorful?
He himself dresses in a very boring way, but everywhere we've always lived has color, and he likes it. I mean, he'd be shocked if it wasn't that way. He likes the color all around him, but he himself does not dress in a colorful way, and I've never been able to change him. But he's a great guy, so I'll just leave him as he is. That love of color has all, and of course, my work, all my sculptures and my paintings and my drawings, and I make these neck shrines, which is completely my thing. Always color, and the way I dress, I make my own clothes. Color, color, color. If it's not a colorful day, I don't feel good. It has to be a colorful day. I have a thing about beige. I'm scared of beige. Don't wear beige. It might kill you. You'll never wear beige. I'll never wear beige. But it's not just that it's an absence of color, but it scares me. It just leaches the life right out of you. It's horrible. It is the color of death, not black. Black is great. Black is rich. And black takes to other colors. You wear all black and then you put some kind of wonderful splash of red, a splash of turquoise. That's great. But you can't do anything but beige, but take it off and throw it away because it's toxic. I can't take beige. Sorry to all the beige lovers out there. You might have many other fine qualities, but I'm so scared that you're going to die from the beige. And it's like people are afraid of spiders. People are afraid of heights. I'm really afraid of beige. So please, let's not talk about it anymore.
Regarding your inspiration, how does it come to you when you see an object? Do you already have the end result visualized in your head?
Well, no, this is an interesting question because I am in a constant state of art arousal, constant. And I am an untutored, I'm what you call an outsider artist, I guess. I work outside the mainstream. I've never had a lesson. I just do what I do. I'm very inspired to do a lot. Other artists I know have the same thing happening. We have so many ideas. We almost don't know what to do first. And some people actually get paralyzed because they don't, but I never get paralyzed. I just go and do something. So I'm always working when I can. Sometimes we're busy with other things, but I'm always thinking about my studio. I'm always thinking about my paints and my sculpting materials. And I have acres of stuff because I am a big collector and I collect a lot of junk. I still have things from when I was a teenager. They do find their ways into my neck shrines, into my sculptures. And even when I paint on wood and then I glue things onto the paintings to tell a story. So I'm always thinking, I'm always inspired. But living in London, especially in the East End, is so incredible. There's so much street art. There's so much happening. There are so many, I don't want to say weird people because I am one of them myself. We're quirky, we're colorful, we're maybe slightly unusual. There are lots of us around. There are lots of other unique, colorful people all around the East End. London, and especially the East End, is a fantastic place for people like us. And then we have our color walk, which happens once a month. And there are lots of us. People don't laugh at us. They don't tell you, are you on your way to the clown department? That has happened to me in other places, but never in the East End. And my neighbors just call me the colorful lady. They're used to it. I lived in New York for many, many years. And New York is full of very chic people. I think maybe a little like Paris. So it's chic, but it's not quirky. It's not unique. It's not crazy colorful. I do have a few friends there who are great. That's why we're friends. But I don't have this mob of people like here.
That's why also I moved here, because I think that's the only place where I felt like everybody was leaving me do my own thing, and
Yes.
I wasn't being bothered by anyone.
We have complete freedom. The East End is my paradise, my absolute paradise, and yours too. It's a fantastic thing. It's a wonderful thing. And I am very, very inspired. I'm inspired by my materials. And I go to a flea market once a week, and I go to charity shops, and I go to boot fairs, and I'll see something or a few things, and that puts me on a path to some work of art, to some piece of clothing, because this is all found objects. Ever since I can remember, I've loved flea markets. Loved them, absolutely loved them. When I was a teenager, just before my teens, we had a careers counselor in school. We were supposed to say what we wanted to do with our lives. I wanted to be an archaeologist. And the horror when Mrs. Berryman, I'll never forget her name, heard that, she actually called my mother in. The heavens wept. The earth stopped spinning on its axis. She wants to be an archaeologist. That is no job for a woman. That's ridiculous. The idea is you got married, you had children, maybe you got divorced, maybe your husband died, then you have to have something like teaching or being a secretary or a nurse that you fall back on just in case. This was the early to mid 50s. So I was forbidden to be an archaeologist. But you go to a flea market and it is a kind of archaeology.
Yeah.
You're going through stuff that is old, that you're not going to see in the department stores. You never know what you're going to find. It's the biggest adventure. It is archaeology. So I feel that in a way I am an archaeologist. And I clean this stuff up and I reuse it and I make something new out of it. So yes, Mrs. Berryman, in my own little way, I'm still an archaeologist.
And we can see also that you're maybe inspired by your travels, because when we see the patterns, the colors, you take inspiration from different countries.
I do. I take inspiration from the various artists and from my trip Mexico. I spent quite a bit of time in Mexico would have been in the early 80s. It's not so much that it made me more colorful. I was already colorful. But I got to Mexico and I thought, this is the inside of my head. It's the color, it's the folk art, it's the food, it's the people.
Yeah.
And it never leaves you. It never leaves you. I've been to a lot of places that were not so colorful, but there's always some glimmer of inspiration wherever you go. I love folk art from all over the world. I love folk art. And it's there for us all to experience and share. Sharing our art is the best thing.
Also, as artists, we can be different in our own way, but have similarities, in fact.
Yeah.
And appreciate one another.
Absolutely. I know a lot of great artists, and they inspire me all the time. So there's Ella Guru, the great painter, and she has painted me many times, and she's really, really good. There is Marie Fernanda Latif. She's 87. She is an inspiration to all of us, and I'm wearing her stuff all the time. She also does freehand crochet clothing, absolute art. And there's Jansu Odimus, and she made this. I'm always wearing the work of my friends. It's extraordinary.
Yeah.
And this is a poppet made by my friend Angela Rogers. And of course, this is the remains of a New Year's Eve noisemaker from the 40s. The stuff that my collections inspire me a lot. And of course, color. I remember something. It was a seminal thing in my life. So I would have been 5. I went to school in the inner city. And the teacher brought out this big box of Crayola crayons. And she opened the box. 64 colors in one box. 64 colors. As she opened that box, and I had boing, it just, wow. It was a moment. And I can still see them. I can still smell them. I have a box on my table in my studio now. Just every once in a while I bury my nose in it and smell it. I don't use crayons these days, but I just have to have that there to remind me. And now they have more colors, even more colors. And they don't smell quite the same. I would bet back then there was something toxic in them, and we all ate our crayons. We ate the paste. We ate everything they put in front of us. But still, it was the colors. And some of the colors were weird because I was in the inner city, New York, and it was a very diverse class. One of the reasons I love the East End so much, it reminds me of that. It's so much diversity here. So they had one color that was a kind of pinkish beige, and that was called skin color. And I looked around my class and I thought, whose skin? What are they talking about? What are they talking about? They still have that color, but they call it something else. I can't remember what they call it. And now there's a whole array of skin colors because we recognize diversity now. So I'm proud that from my age of 5 or 4 up till now 84, if you want skin color, you get the whole panoply of skin color. That certainly is a step forward.
What you're putting in your jewelry objects is like a piece of you. So during your life, have you seen the transition in inspiration? Or you can see in your home, for example, like some objects, you can clearly see, oh, this one, I made it 5 years ago because I was in this mindset. And those ones are like more recent.
Yeah. My art is also, it's all about the female landscape. So it's about the feminine story, what's happening internally for a woman. And I mean both physically, emotionally, what's the inner life of women and the journey they go through. And I'm sure, men, maybe they have a spiritual life, maybe, but I'm really not interested. And they have fantasies. I don't need to know them. I'm going to stick with the ladies. Thank you very much. So it is a very feminine and I suppose a very feminist thing, but it's very colorful and it does tell stories. It really does tell stories. And as I get older and as the things around me that are happening change, the stories change as well. But I love the idea of neck shrine. It is actually wearing a shrine around your neck.
Yeah. Not a necklace, a shrine.
It is not. It is never a necklace. We do not say necklace. It is a shrine, and it tells a story. And sometimes the story is very profound. Sometimes the piece is so big, not this one, but so that it's not that comfortable to wear. But I will wear it for the right occasion. I'll wear anything, absolutely anything. And some of them, I have a website, just SueKreitzman.com, and you can see lots of this stuff on the gallery pages in my website. And we're always adding to it. And I love wearing these things around my neck. This is about my friend, Angela Rogers, who made the poppet. She makes poppets. This is just completely about found objects and doing something with found objects. And the base is a Maasai, Kenya, beaded neck piece, and I buy them from female traders, cottage industries who support their families by selling them to tourists. And it is about the maker, it is about the color, it's about the meaning that this brings money that's very needed to bring up their family. So the whole thing, is a whole gestalt of things. So as far as color is concerned, as far as art is concerned, as far as ideas and stories are concerned, it's an incredibly rich life.
It's more and more important to reuse in the home. We can't imagine the amount of projects I saw and people are throwing stuff away and you're like, no, you can reuse this, you can reuse that. Like this, for example, I have no desk that is here. It was a part of the kitchen and they were just throwing it away. And I was like, no, don't throw it away. I'm going to use it because it's important and it brings something else, like another dimension to the house.
Yeah, recycling. It is a way of life, and it always has been a way of life. It saves you a lot of money, too. I remember when aluminum foil came into being. I'm a really old lady. And because we didn't have a whole lot of money, and the Depression had happened fairly, my grandparents and my mother remembered the Depression, so they would wash the aluminum foil and use it again. And I do the same thing. And paper towels, do you know how much paper towels cost these days? A lot. Everything is so expensive now. So I do use them over and over again until they become so disgusting. If I blow my nose in it or something.
I'm the same.
Yeah, we are sisters. And I remember when I was a little girl, fathers would have a DIY hobby. And they'd make their furniture out of old orange crates. And it was great stuff. And that stuff now is very collectible.
Yeah.
If you see that stuff from back in the 40s and the late 30s. And it was just because they didn't have the money and this stuff was available. And we all should be doing that. And many of us do. Not necessarily orange crates. I can't remember the last time I saw an orange crate. But whatever we can find, we reuse it. It's so much fun. Those big spools when you have a building thing happening, a project in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
First of all, they start digging everything up and then the rats come. So you have to be careful of that. But they always have these huge wooden spools that they have the electric wire. And I have so many of those. I've made art pieces. I've made plinths. I've made tables. I cannot resist them. And sometimes the workmen will be very kind because I do my little old lady act. Oh, we can't manage it. They'll bring it to my house. Because otherwise, why would you throw something like that away?
Yeah.
Don't let them go. Hold on to them. I'm lucky because I live on the ground floor. I've got a garden. I have a place to put this stuff. And why buy new furniture? First of all, there's so much in charity shops that's really good. I like the British Heart Foundation. Furnished my whole house in Cambridge back in the day with that stuff. And then you can change it. You can paint it, you can redo it, you can remake it, you just make it your own. It's an endless excitement. Recycling is a very elegant thing. It's a very elegant thing. And what's most elegant is when you take something and then you make art out of it. Even old tin cans, the crushed Coke cans that you find on the street. I have a friend who makes the most beautiful jewelry out of that. It's just amazing. And she looks on the side of the car, will have run over a Coke can, and that's her treasure. I always think I need to start doing this, but I'm doing so many other things. But the things that you think are utter garbage, really, they're not. And we get inspired by these things. Using nothing, something that would get thrown away, to make something incredible. And in my home, I have this whole collection of bottle cap stuff. It is endlessly inspiring. So unless something is going to rot and turn really disgusting, don't throw it away. And if it's not already colorful, you can paint it. It's a crime to throw this stuff away. You can do something with it. And not only do something with it, but do something extraordinary with it. That's my philosophy.
What's amazing is the storytelling. It's not starting from the time you have it in your hand. It's from the time it was first created. So it has had multiple lives as well.
It has an incredible history.
Yeah.
And sometimes you might know a little of that history, but you can't know it all because it goes way back. And you hold it in your hand and you think, it's just a bunch of bottle caps, but it's profound. And somebody washed the bottle caps and then somebody did something with it. And then it's absolutely profound. I'll never get tired of it, never. And I'm just using bottle caps as a metaphor because there are many other things too. And I'm not ashamed to say that I and my assistant, we do pull things out of the trash. The things that people throw away.
Yeah.
Somebody in my building had their kitchen redone and they ripped out all the old kitchen and they just threw it with the stuff to be taken away by the council. And there were all these wooden panels that were cupboard doors and it was just plain wood. We, the two of us, two little old ladies, we schlepped them all into the house and then into the shed and we sanded them down. And I've been using them, to paint on and glue things on. It's a gift. It's a gift from the garbage fairies. That was an extraordinary thing. Every once in a while you find an old battered mannequin. Oh my God, I have a thing for mannequins. Mannequins have spirit. They have soul. When I was a little girl, I believed that my dolls were alive. I still believe that. I have to make sure they're comfortable. I have to make sure they're happy. And it's the same with my mannequins. I dress them and I festoon them with wonderful things. They wear neck shrines. And often you do find battered ones thrown away. You just have to have your eyes open all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Yeah.
Yeah, everything can be a medium of expression. You have to think outside the box. I remember also you did a workshop with a paper bag.
Yes. Oh my gosh, paper bags. During pandemic, didn't go out, was on constant lockdown, and people would deliver food to my door and they would do it in a paper bag. So I must have dozens of them. That was great. And I made masks that you put over your head. Didn't make eye holes so you were blind, but you were wearing this fantastic mask. So that was good. And I still collect paper bags. And I did a whole workshop on that. So you don't have to have money. A little bit of money helps. But there's so much out there that is absolutely free. Don't throw it away. Don't only think outside the box. When you see the box out on the street, bring it home.
I had the pleasure of visiting your incredible home too, that is filled with your art, with the upcycled object that you did. We can see multiple facets of you. How do you place your art in your home? Do you have already everything planned, or do you know how to highlight your art?
This is a very complicated question because I have something that I found out is called horror vacui. fright of empty spaces. I have something everywhere, but it's not a hoarding situation, even though I am at heart a hoarder. Although I have a lot of stuff. I have mannequins and sculptures, and I have my neck shrines, and I have things that other people have made. But first of all, you have to have help keeping it clean. And I do have dusting helpers because it has to be clean and you have to take care of it. You have to make sure if it's in the light, it's something that can take the light. So you have to take care of the stuff. And you have to have a little bit of room for people to walk around and for people to sit and be comfortable, always bringing new things in. And somebody once said to me who came to visit, so I guess it's a question of one new thing that comes in and then something goes out. What? No, the very idea. Something comes in and it's just one more thing. And I have a wonderful helper, Anna, and she helps me to decide and hang where it's going to go. We're constantly shifting things around. And I also have 2 sheds. I'm lucky enough to live on the ground floor. So one is for the stuff that I use in my work. And the other is like a little museum. It has stuff in it to look at and chairs to sit in. So we're just constantly arranging and rearranging. I'm constantly adding things, always adding things. And everything I have, I feel is very important. It's just, my husband doesn't like clutter. And I don't feel I have clutter because everything is really well arranged, but there's not as much walking around space as there could be. So in his place, he has a lot of color on the wall, a lot of art on the wall, but there's wide open space. So I don't mind, but there always has to be a place to walk. There always has to be a place to sit, to put your cup of coffee, what have you. And you just have to think about who's going to be in your house and how you're going to use your house. And as long as there's that comfort for people, then just go wild, put art everywhere, horror vacui, don't let there be an empty space. Just do it the way you want to do it. And it helps because when people come, I give them a tour and I explain the various pieces. And it does take several times to see it all because you won't see everything. You might see it, but you don't actually register it.
But then every time you come, you discover something else, and you're like, oh, I haven't seen this.
Yeah, it's like going to a fabulous museum.
When I learned interior design rules, they said have a breathing space in between zones. Otherwise, it's too overwhelming. For some people, it works. Maybe for some, it doesn't. We see differently. We experiment things differently. And we have also mind association, like color with something else that happened in your life. But
everybody is different. And I'm not forcing anybody to live like I. Of course I'm not. Most people would not want to live the way I do, although some do. But this is what people say to me. They say, because my bedroom is very colorful and I have 2 huge paintings of the color walk by my friend Ella Guru, fabulous artist, right opposite my bed. And I have other things. My bedroom is very exciting. And people say, at the end of the day, don't you need a place to rest your eyes that's just quiet? Why would I need that? No, I don't. You might need that, and you're quite welcome to do that in your house. But no, I don't need that. I need excitement and color and stories happening all the time. And that's the way I've arranged my life. So if it makes you nervous, you don't have to come anymore. It's okay. You don't have to do this in your house, but this is what works for me. From my point of view, the most important thing when you're decorating your home is color. You have to have color. And I like clashing color. I love red. Red is the color of life. Red is the color of femininity. Red is a great pink. Okay, pink is okay, especially fuchsia pink, but red is it's the color of our blood. It's the color of our passion. And I like it. I like red with turquoise. I like red with fuchsia pink. I like red with just about anything except, of course, beige or gray. I'm very bold with color. And when you have all the art on the wall, the color becomes a little more muted because you're concentrating on the art, but it's always there. And I always feel that this color protects me and it just makes my mental health better. And I come home and I am enfolded by the art and the color. And I know even if everything is not okay, there is the possibility of it being okay because I am in this environment. You want it to be you. You don't want it to be somebody else.
And you feel at ease.
This is home. Yeah. This is where I belong. So I feel very passionate about that.
Would you have any tips to our listeners to experiment more?
Well, it depends on who you are and how you feel about color. And if you're scared of color, if you have homophobia or even a slight fear of color, just try a little color. Start small and you'll find how it changes your mood so wonderfully. And then just keep adding. I say that about dressing too. If you're going to wear black, put on something red, put on something turquoise, be bold. And the first thing that will happen is that you will feel better and people on the street will be smiling at you. You make people happy. Even when times are very dark, it's just a little burst of color and hope. And you can do that in your home too. I can't tell you what to do with your home, but I would suggest you recycle more. You find things on the street. You go to the flea market, you go to the charity shops, and you add color, you add homemade things, try making things yourself, support artists, buy art while the artist is still alive and poor and struggling. And it doesn't matter, is it going to appreciate and make you rich? Who cares? It might. Sometimes it happens, but that's not the point. The point is that you're connecting with a creative soul. You're giving them life, even if you just like on Instagram. But if you can buy something from them, I don't sell, so don't worry. You don't have to buy anything from me. I think the term is anal retentive about my art. I have to keep a hold of it. But other artists are not the same. They would love you to buy a piece of their wonderful jewelry, buy a painting, buy a little sculpture. Buy what you can and support the artist, and will add such richness and atmosphere and happiness to your home. So that is my big tip. It's not just about you. It's about the people around you who are producing, and you want to make that a part of your life.
We are coming to the end of the episode. Is there a way the listeners could contact you?
I have a website. It's www.suekreitzman.info. There is a little thing where it says contact me. I am on both Instagram and Facebook, Sue Kreitzman. You can always message me there. I'm always delighted to hear from people. So if you have a question, you just want to say hello, or you want to say, I think you're absolutely crazy, whatever you want to say to me, you can do that on those three things. And I have a YouTube channel. My face is everywhere. So you are welcome to connect with me. I'd love to talk to you.
Thank you very much, Sue, for your colorful presence and expertise. It was really a pleasure to have you here.
It is very inspiring here, and you are very inspiring.
Thank you.
So thank you very much.
And thank you for being here. See you soon on another vibrant episode. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, don't hesitate to subscribe, rate, or review on the different listening platforms. To say hello and get all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram at rainbow.shaker. And if you want to check out my services, you can go to my website, www.rainbowshaker.com. Thanks again, and I wish you all a very colorful day. See you next time.